Hey guys, welcome to Simple Hobo. As you know, June 12, 2016 was a terrifying day for those of us who reside in the greater Orlando area in the state of Florida. In the wee hours of the morning, a lone gunman made his way into the Pulse nightclub, took out a rifle, started firing. And for those of us in Central Florida, life has never been the same since. People were numb, the media started reporting the tragedy, disbelief, anger, hurt, fear, and uncertainty all crept into the hearts and minds of so many. The first responders, ER hospital staff, the GLBT community, and the political spin doctors, the friends and family, and everyone that was affected, even the evangelical church community, were all raw with emotion, as no one had really experienced anything like this in the Orlando area. I mean, we've heard about it in Orlando, we heard about it overseas. We heard about some stuff that happened in California. We all lived through the terrible tragedy of what happened in New York City. But it hadn't invaded our little neck of the woods. So when it did, we were ill prepared. I have to admit, in my lifetime, I have never really been a part of a community that came together, so many diverse people pouring out such acts of love. Words of hope, words of prayer, all kinds of things were happening. And what was really amazing is the response of the evangelical church as a whole, because typically the evangelical church, when they think about GLBT rights and the issues, there's all kinds of theological controversy. And I'm not here to tell you which is right. I'm just saying there is great controversy and many, many strong opinions. But what I had never seen was the response that the evangelical church did or created in response to this tragedy. So it was a pleasant surprise when people in the church reached out to victims and family members of Pulse. Churches opened their doors for free services. They activated and provided food and shelter, money, support. People of faith all locked hands together and love was poured out. Yet underneath the surface, there seemed to be this kind of elephant in the room. Because the question that was kind of being whispered was, what was going to happen when the tragedy calmed down and things started to return to normal? As I pondered this, a friend of mine posted a heartfelt letter on Facebook. And with her permission, I'm going to read it to you. So here is her letter that she put on Facebook. She said, "This past week has been crazy. My heart has been broken, and in an attempt not to feel alone, I've turned to Facebook, hoping that seeing everyone else being in the same place would be comforting somehow, and I'd be able to get through until Sunday when my wife gets home and we can cry together. But somehow, every time I get on Facebook, I just feel hurt and angry. There are moments of comfort, but they are far outweighed because I'm still Facebook friends with so many from my childhood community. My newsfeed is full of proud Christians posting about how their church is opening its doors, even though their pastor praying for those affected by the Orlando tragedy, even though. There are posts by conservative Christians, Campus Crusade staff members, all saying, 'Pray for Orlando, we love you,' even though. The interesting part is that Christians are so proud that their church or pastor or Chick-fil-A is responding with so much love. There are even non-Christians that are impressed with the way the Christian community is responding. But have you stopped to think about why it's so impressive? It's impressive because this is not the way the church usually treats the LGBT community. It's impressive because the church is infamous for its non-love. So yes, no one was expecting a Christian pastor to hold prayer vigils because 2 weeks ago when he met with two distraught parents of a teenager that had just come out, he gave them reading material on places to send their child to be healed. He had told them to get their child into Christian counseling immediately so that whatever issue was causing this could be addressed and that their child could be brought back to God. He implored them that even though it was difficult, they must communicate to their child that being gay is not in God's plan, and that their child needed to make the choice to obey God's commands. The parents must be sure to let them know that any type of homosexual relationship would not be tolerated under their godly roof. Love the sinner, hate the sin. Pray for God to heal your child. Tell them there is nothing they could do to make you stop loving them, but make it very clear that to be, quote, that way would be an abomination to God. So be very, very impressed at this amazing display of support and love that's happening right now, because there is a huge even though. Wouldn't it be great if instead of everyone being surprised at the number of Christians posting positive messages of support, it was just normal? Oh, there goes those Christians again helping the community. Oh, those Christians. They're always posting their messages of love and support. Not worth reposting because it fills my newsfeed every day, not just today. Duh, the Christians are being loving and supportive. That's just the way they are. So forgive us in the LGBT community if we're not so grateful and don't feel overwhelmingly loved by the posts. I'm sorry that it's hurtful to you, that we have a difficult time believing that your prayers are sincere. We're still recovering from the rest of our lives when you have hurt us. Ask almost any LGBT person what they feel from the Christian community on a daily basis, and their answer will not be love. I wish that the Christian community could be better listeners. I wish they could stop feeling attacked and could read the meaning behind many of our posts. We're trying to tell you that your hate the sin, love the sinner approach isn't working. You're trying to balance two biblically demanded approaches. You know that you have to stand for what you believe is right. You've been called to not accept, quote, unrepentant sinners into the church. But Jesus also said that the greatest commandment was love. You think you have come up with a way to do both by telling us you love us, but you do not agree with what we do. You love us, but that your child who is married to a spouse of the same sex can't sleep in the same room together when they visit. You love us, but we can't be members of your church. You love us, but you're not as interested in our hopes and dreams for the future because it doesn't align with what you've always pictured as God's plan for our lives. You love us, but you will fight against us being able to marry. You love us, but you don't want the law on the books protecting us from being fired for being LGBT. You love us, but you don't hug or kiss your wife when you're under our roof. You love us, but you don't think it's appropriate for there to be gay couples on a kids show because of how disgusting we are. You love us, but your love the sinner, hate the sin approach is not working when so many LGBT people contemplate or attempt suicide because of it. But you can't see that connection. You can't accept that your biblically based actions are causing emotional trauma and death. Because how could God be calling you to act in a way that would have these repercussions? No, it must be the emotional trauma and suicide are related to the sickness of homosexuality and transgenderism. That's what it is. Forgive us if we are underwhelmed by your posts. Forgive us when we blame the culture that you have created for allowing the animosity to fester that caused the shooting. I'll be more specific now. Forgive me when I see your posts of prayer and support because all I feel is pain. Most days I'm able to forget how the conservative Christian community has hurt me. But seeing your proud prayer posts is a sharp reminder. It reminds me how you reacted when I told you I was gay. You may even have told me you would pray for me then too. It reminds me how panicked I was when I first realized that my attraction towards girls hadn't gone away by high school like I hoped it would. I remember all the action steps I researched and followed through to try to get better. I spent around a year just praying for God to take it all away. Prayer is powerful. God is merciful. Surely this will work. Then I broke down in helplessness after that year and told a Bible study leader that I would have an accountability partner. I started bringing a Bible to school with me so that I could fill my mind with God's Word during all hours of the day so that there wouldn't be room for my sinful nature. Then I started bringing an extra notebook to use as my prayer journal to God. If I finished an assignment early in class, I would take out the notebook and journal so that my thoughts would be constantly filled with God. Somewhere around my senior year in high school, I told God that obviously I was too weak. I needed Him to take over and fight this battle for me. I couldn't conquer my sin. I needed Him to be the one to do it. I prayed that prayer over and over again throughout my senior year and into my first year of college. I even tried having the demons cast out of me. You know, there are two options for what could be happening if you tried all those steps and your sin is still there. Either you have not really been giving your all to God, all of your sin that is. A tiny part of you somewhere deep inside is still holding on to your sin so that God cannot take it away. One of the great aspects of Christianity is that if you do things the church tells you to do and don't get the results the church said you would have, then obviously your heart truly wasn't in it. Or God's plan for your life is that it's not your cross to carry. Or this is your cross to carry. His plan is for you to spend the rest of your life fighting. Hopefully it will get easier over time, but maybe not. Maybe I would spend my life alone. Maybe I could find a good Christian guy who was willing to marry me, even though. Those were the two options I was left with, and I struggled over both. I desperately prayed for God to show me if it was my fault that He couldn't fix me. To show me if there was even a small part deep within that I was holding back. I tried to imagine my future alone or with a good Christian guy that would rescue me, but I was so tired. I was so full of so much loathing towards myself. I found it harder and harder to do normal daily activities. I found it harder and harder to focus on my classes. I ended up having to choose a class to let slide so that I could keep my grades up in other classes. Sorry, music theory. I started cutting. It distracted me from my emotional pain and helped me focus on schoolwork. Finally, I realized that I couldn't do it anymore, any of it. I couldn't fight the rest of my life, but also didn't want to give in and stop fighting. The only option left was suicide. Thankfully, I made it through. Thankfully, a series of events unfolded in the years afterwards to get me to the point that I'm at today. But forgive me if I don't rejoice at how loving you're being when you post how sad you are for Orlando. Forgive me if I get angry to see that you are praying for those that are hurting, because I know that you feel like you are supporting the LGBT community in love, even though. As long as you refuse to listen when we tell you that your current approach to balancing love and righteousness isn't working, and in fact is causing pain and death, your pray for Orlando doesn't have much to it. When I read what my friend wrote, I immediately reached out to her and said, I'm so sorry. Because I am a part of this evangelical Christian community, and I didn't realize the part that I had been playing. Yeah, God's been working on my mind as I've worked with many, many different people, and my perspective has totally, radically been changed. And as I went down to the Pulse nightclub after the shooting, as I walked around, as I read the memorials, as I saw the immense outpouring of love, I kept thinking about my friend and her words and her hurt. We have a lot of work to do. What I'm hoping is that somehow her words could penetrate into our hearts, into your heart, and that perhaps something would be different. Just words to ponder. I know it's a heavy, heavy video, but I hope it makes a difference for all of us. So thanks for tuning in to Simple Hobo. Peace out.